Good luck.
Are you good, AC?
We're good. All right. So, new era Fantasy Football League 2020 season is a wrap. I would like to thank everybody for coming out. I thank everybody for playing, giving the full effort this whole season. This is actually not the last show, but it's the last show that where we'll talk about, in detail what happened in this season. We felt that this was pertinent to wrap up the playoffs, get some shouts out, and announce some things that are to come in the next few weeks and months. So we want to start off, all of us talking about the playoffs, and we'll work backwards. We'll talk about the finals first. So we'll go around, but I just want to give, Ricky his congratulations on being the 2020 champ. Brother Rick, from me to you, man, it's been a long journey. My goal was to have you come back with a renewed, just energy and love for our league. We never know who's going to wind up being a champ at the end of the season, but to see you take it all away was just a beautiful thing, a beautiful run, especially because you were just kind of taking it as it came, trying to build your team, but also enjoying the vibe of the league. And so what better way to cap that off is as being a champion. I don't want to get into the strategy of it without passing it to everybody else to give you their congrats, but from me to you, LM, to the champion, congratulations as a team owner. Congratulations, brother. You did your thing. You're cemented in the Hall of Fame. You get your gold jacket. You get everything, man. You get the last flower, from the league. So congratulations.
Word. Yeah, nah. Well, the season's over with, so I don't think any strategy hurts or helps anybody. But just speaking from an overall sense, man, I'm really glad to see Ricky pull this home. Not that, certainly if Marv had won, I wouldn't have felt the same way. But just kind of looking at Ricky's journey through the league, it just felt like the right time for Ricky. And just seeing his run, like I know I put it in the chat for the league, but man, I've never seen a run like that where dude is he's barely there. And every week, the three of us is like, Ricky, come on this boat, man, come get this fishing hat. And Ricky was like, not quite yet. And man, he really, just came into the playoffs and he was on fire, man. So congrats to you. And now you can finally get on the boat with the rest of us, but in a celebratory manner. So definitely, salute to you, Ricky. Great team, great story. And now, for sure, we know you're going to be back next year. That's for sure.
For sure, man. I will say, I'll put on the owner hat here for a second. Certainly, congratulations, man. I think, as the saying goes, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And I know, going into the playoffs, my 12-1 record, I hadn't taken many losses other than Brother Vern. But you brought the fire, bro, and it stung. I ain't gonna lie. The way in which you became champion was through the champion, and I wouldn't
Man,
want
just congratulate him, man.
I said
Match,
congrats. I'm
it
saying.
doesn't matter. Your semifinals match does not matter. Stop talking about it.
But I'm saying congratulations. Let me congratulate the way I want to. My goodness.
He played Marvin. That's it. You were irrelevant.
So what? No, I don't agree with that. I'll tell you why I don't agree with that. Because throughout this entire journey, at least in his journey this season, for him, for the semifinals to be quote unquote irrelevant, I don't agree with that. Because had other owners will remain
Rap. They don't say, like, okay, when you win a Super Bowl, when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, they didn't say, well, congrats for beating the Titans. You did your thing. They beat the Niners, okay? So unless you're the Niners, leave it. When we discuss the playoffs, then we can discuss what happened in the semifinals, including
Brother Rick, congratulations. Well deserved, brother. Do your thing, man. I'm excited to see you come back next year and throw down. Does that make you happy, AC? Is that better?
Yes. Before you start talking about how they stole the election, I mean the semifinals match. Yes. Congratulations, brother.
No, I feel you, Brad, to some degree. That I think not only the fact that he beat Marvin, and we all have a great deal of respect for Marvin and his acumen, and obviously Marvin's already a two-time champion. And then to go up against your team, which although McCaffrey wasn't there, was still 12-1 and still locked and loaded, it really does say anything. Like, one thing we can definitely say about Ricky's run is it did not feel fluky. And I think when you beat a team like,
come on, but that's my point. When he's on the podium, we're giving him the trophy. When we leave the podium and we go back to our analyst mode, then we can recap the run.
Okay.
But for now, congratulations.
Man, you can't get more than 30 seconds before the producer cuts your mic off. I get it. All right. We got another segment. Another segment.
Right.
Yes.
So violin music, get you off the stage.
Right.
That's why they bring out Derrick Henry like, yo, Mahomes, like, congrats, though. Congrats, Mahomes.
Cut the commercial while you sitting here grabbing the mic.
Right.
All right. Congrats, Ricky, man. 2020 champ, new era. Congratulations. What you want to do with your victory? You want to Disney World? Probably not this year in COVID, but go to your mysterious, fantasy Disney World, man. Enjoy it. Whatever. Congrats.
Wow, well, whatever he gonna do, he gonna do whatever he gonna do. I would say on your dime, but you don't pay. So all right, whatever. Actually, no. Who won that? Who won the? We'll get to that. All right. So anyway, on to Marvin. Now, what I want to say to Marvin, man, is, and we actually discussed this. Like, sometimes you just run to a buzzsaw, man. Like, I've been in a lot. I can go back over my history, man. There's some vivid games that stand out where, I put a good team on the field. It's just you run into a complete buzzsaw, man. The most recent for me was Gene last year, where these dudes for that 2 weeks, he did his thing. So I liken that to Marv. Like, he has nothing at all to hold his head about. There's no sweat, no dirt on the shoulders, no nothing. Like, what can you do when you run into a team that hot? So I just wanted to give Marv his shout out too. He put up about as best a fight as anybody, can show without having like the plus potential or people just going crazy. Like, he did exactly what anybody, with the full lineup would do. So he has nothing at all to hang his head about. Just wanted to shout him out. Congrats. The t-shirts and hats though, how they do after the Super Bowl. They send them off to like some third world country to recycle. That's what you got to do with his stuff. But, either way, nothing to hold your head about.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree, man. Just kind of looking at his team and just kind of, going down towards the stretch. He just had a lot of, nicks and bruises with his running backs, with Gibson kind of getting hit. And then Cam Akers, who was really coming on towards the end of the season. He, ends up having a COVID situation or just being out for whatever reason. I think maybe it was just an injury. But anyway, he just kind of lost that momentum. I felt like Marvin was riding a lot of momentum, a lot of legitimate momentum because he had a great team. But it just started to lose some of that steam. But he still fought like a champion. And just, to me, the way I look at Marvin's team, and I told this to Marvin personally, for 1 year, last year he was 3-11. And I mean, and it wasn't because he was, gave up. He was really trying, and that team just didn't show up. So now, fast forward to, to be in this spot where he's in the finals. Most teams don't turn that around. Most teams that are 3-11, they don't see the finals the very next year. Usually they kind of have to build their way to the top. So, definitely Marvin deserves his props for a great job this year, for sure.
I'll echo those sentiments. I think the difference between myself and you guys is you guys have the benefit of starting this league with Marvin and kind of having that history that maybe some of us don't have because we came in at a later point. But from what I've seen since I've joined the league, Marvin is someone, even when he has some down years, he comes back that next year. And regardless of how that season ends out, is always, he's like the professor, right? He's always, I know Aaron's always giving him his kudos for it, but I think it really is well deserved. I think he's a master of the game when it comes to like putting this stuff together on paper, the research and whatever. And I think this season was another example of that, going from where he went last year to the team he put forward this year. I think it's just kudos to the work that he puts in, and I think him ending in second place is nothing to hang his hat on, because I think all season long we knew what his team was capable of doing, and I think a number two's finish I think is right. So
Yeah. I
kudos
mean,
to
look,
him.
at the end of the day, it's nice to walk away with a chip, but I'm also a big believer in a chip does not necessarily define like the legacy, of team owners. It's the body of work over extended period of time. And Marv is definitely the top of the top. Alir. Top of the top. Pretty, yeah, it's late. Top of the top tier when it comes to fantasy owners. I mean, there aren't really many more accolades you can give the brother. I mean, he's earned every one of them. So, I really, like I said, the chip is always good to have. I mean, to always look back in the history and say, well, you were number one a certain year is a great thing. But I think that, and not to diminish that at all, but the story of Marvin extends far beyond, what he's done in the finals. And you got to look over the entire body from 2004 to now. And the brother is definitely, on the Mount Rushmore. So, that's how I recap the finals in my mind.
Word.
So we could just get a quick moment of silence for the teams that didn't make the finals. So, Raf, would you like to now recap the journey or the entire playoff picture? We could start with your team since we have you. How do you feel about your performance in the playoffs?
I think it's kind of, I think it's, people say, sometimes you don't overthink some of these decisions. And I think in my case, it might have just come down to, I think I overthunk some lineup choices, particularly in the playoffs. And I think it definitely came back to burn me. I think going into that first half of the semis, where, brother brought home like damn near 200 points, and that was, when you go into that kind of a lead for week two, you feel pretty good, so it becomes that much more important to make sure you make the right lineup choices that second week. And really it just became let me just see how this plays out. I wasn't necessarily feeling good by any means going into week two. And it stung to go into the loss from that kind of in that kind of situation. Like if you go to Vegas and it's like, listen, you need 6 points, 5 points from a Steelers D going up to Cincinnati, like you take that bet. You just do. Regardless of how Pittsburgh was playing going up to up to that point. But it is what it is. Listen, I ain't crying about it. I think it definitely stings. If I would have made one or two different lineup choices, the results might have been different. Probably would have been different. But those are the breaks, man. And I think, looking at what I did, I think last season and going into this season and just having the season I have, like I'm not disappointed. Quite honestly, in the work that I put in. I put a lot of work in. I don't know if people think I do or not. I actually do, but
you do. Yeah.
So
Listen, I okay. So I have a few different views about what happened with you. One, as an LM, I got to give you your flowers, man. Just like you were alluding to in my MY mind prematurely, Ricky's run was so stunning because of, and this is take nothing away from Jeremy. He didn't play Jeremy, but for the two candidates that he beat on the way there, I mean, he fought through about the best of the best, whether it's from a current lens or a longer view lens. He fought against the very best that we have to offer. Starting off with you. I mean, it's daunting. Like your team is very intimidating and daunting. So to have to just put a lineup in, you have to have a certain sort of temperament. Probably more like Ricky, sort of a like, look, I'm putting in my people, roll the dice, let it be what it's going to be. Not overthink it, just go with the flow. and also look at Ricky's journey to say the fact that he beat you, that was a hell of a
Hold on, time out, AC. My internet just cut out for like 30 seconds, so I didn't catch any of that. You guys were frozen.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
But basically what I was saying was for you to get it all the way down to the 1 yard line, basically the second week of the matchup, and not get it across the goal line. I mean, we all thought that you were kind of out of it, but it was just a testament to your team that they were able to climb all the way back in like that. So him going up against the champ, like it was just improbable. Like nobody thought like he was up, but it was like, look, wait for them absentee ballots to come in because he may not make it.
Right.
And then so that beating you was definitely, like you said, like to beat a man, you got to beat the man. I mean, I don't think even given kudos to Marv's team, I don't think he had a more formidable challenge than the one you were presenting, and he survived that. So that was no small feat. I mean, that was no small feat. The degree of difficulty was like a level 10. As I said to you all season, I think you earned the right to wear that belt. Typically, the enjoyment comes after you won, maybe not even that next season. But when you just sit back and reflect, like, man, it was tough, but I did it. I persevered. You definitely earned the right to wear that belt all you want because you are a true champ. And then him beating Marv, again, he's one of the best in the long-term view of the league, like Mount Rushmore, prime time ticket, Michael Jordan over here. So for him to have the run that he did versus the competition that he did, it makes one of his championships probably one of the most difficult, I'll say, or dare say. So yeah, like I said, giving you your props, Raph, your journey ended short of the finals, but you have nothing to hang your head about. You did your thing. That's as an LM. So kudos. As a team owner, man, I'm so glad you didn't win that double up. I was like, go, Ricky. I was like, run.
Run.
Word. I was so happy, man, because like I said, after you won last season, it felt like, I'm not comparing you to this at all, so no inference here. But it just felt like in 2016, like, man, I don't want to go to work the next day. Raph won, like, here we go. And it wasn't even about you winning. It was more about the team that you had, like with Lamar and McCaffrey and Cook. And it was just like, man, like, this brother is about to go on like a run where he could, when the dust settles on your run, you could probably have about 5 chips. I mean, I could be exaggerating, but multiple chips. Like you had and still have that kind of a team. So to just break it up a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like Golden State, like let Cleveland win, then you can get back on your business, whatever you got to do. So as a team owner, I was like, yeah, like go Rick. I was like, go new blood. So that's as a team owner, man. So, those are my perspectives on it. I'll pass it over to Vern for his thoughts.
Yeah. Well, Raph, I gotta say this. I gotta give you a props, man. Anytime that you come into the league as the champion, there is a target on your back. You clearly knew that. You embraced it. You didn't run from it. And you still went 12-1. So to me, that said a lot. And then considering, we already talked about it, but just considering the injuries that you had to deal with, Lamar Jackson underperforming at times, like, dude, like, I got to give you your props on just managing your team and just coming into the next season and really kind of putting it in a position to where it could really, you could double up. I mean, it's hard to do. It's almost impossible to win back-to-back in a very competitive league. So to me, I got to give you your props on the way you defended it. You went down like a champ. It took everything and what Ricky had to offer, and Ricky offered a lot. You go back and look at those scores. Ricky was putting people down, and it took everything that he had to muster to put you out. It was not a knockout; it was a decision, and so that speaks volumes about just your team and how well you were able to kind of manage your team this year. So, no different than what AC said. One, I'm glad that out of that 12-1 that I gave you that first loss, but I must admit, just like AC, it felt great when Ricky pulled out the win. It felt great. I mean, like bring out like the festival horns, all that. It was like one
It's like,
time.
folks, we still have another championship round to play. Don't bring out the champagne yet.
It's like Kings,
Right.
bring out the horns. Blacks drop a bomb on them, all of that. Party at the tunnel. We doing it up, drinks in the air.
Can I get a red man? Fin.
Right. And like AC said, it wasn't. I don't think it's so much more so personal, but it's more so about just looking at the composite of your team. And I don't want to repeat everything that AC said, but you have a team that's clearly here to stay. You're going to be in the playoffs for at least the next 2 years. Very easily could be the next 3 or 4 years with the guys that you got. I mean, those injuries, they're not going to happen every year, but I think those performances by your main studs will. So you're going to be back in it. You're going to get a lot of shots at it. So to me, it was like, man, this dude go back to back because it's never been done. It's never been done in this league. So for you to go back to back in this league, woo! I mean, yeah, that's a huge statement. So for now, we've held you off. The Empire is still, the Death Star ain't quite finished yet. So we got a shot. So this is what it is, man. And like I said, that really, to me, really, going back to Ricky, just really kind of it's just another feather in that cap when he looks at this championship years down the line. You look at just the 4 teams and how dominant the 4 teams were in the playoffs. Nobody's really, I mean, coming into it, anybody got a shot. But based off of how the teams were performing, just, the composites of the team, I don't think anybody was expecting Ricky necessarily to be like the front runner. But, I mean, he just established his dominance right away. And it was just like, man, this guy is like, he just took off. So, got to give him his props. And just looking at the 2 rounds, what's clear is that he had the best performances out of all 4 teams. So no matter what scenario would have played out, if you had played Marvin or, if Ricky had played Germ, it wouldn't have made a difference. Ricky would have won. You look at his first round and you look at his second round, he would have beat everybody. So it don't even matter. Ricky clearly won. So, again, but props to you. And strike it up next year, man. You got a good squad and a lot of interesting decisions to make. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with your squad, man.
Unless Raph wants to speak, I want to shout out Germ a little bit, but I gotta turn it over to Raph real quick.
No, I mean, thank you. I mean, listen, I think coming from you guys, I respect you guys as gentlemen and as fantasy owners, and your analysis is usually spot on, despite the competition and despite all the banter and all the love and all that. I appreciate it. You know what I mean? And I think we're gonna continue to battle, and we're gonna have these moments where I hate to say it, I don't want to see AC win either, right? Because he's an arrogant dude, and when he wins, he lets everybody knows he wins.
Who,
right?
me?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't talk no trash when I win no more, man. I don't say nothing.
No. But
I don't say much.
He just flies to the right and just show you all his championships.
Right. It's a mature humble brag. It's a mature humble brag.
That's it. With the money, that's what I do. I go buy a trophy. Like, that's it.
But no, man. I think this year, for sentimental reasons, call it the universe, the stars. Hashtag 2020. The fact that Ricky, whether or not he was thinking about this, kind of calling it a wrap for new era, like all of those things, the universe has a funny way of working itself out in life and in fantasy, no pun intended. So I'm just like I said, I'm glad for the league. Like I think this season was a win for the league in more ways than I think we give it credit for. So
Ricky got the COVID bubble championship. Got the COVID championship.
No fans in the stands, but he's celebrating.
Yeah. Right. I just want to turn it to Jeremy, man, because I think every playoff entrant should be celebrated. And I feel like Jeremy definitely he was in general population with me and Vern coming out of the draft. He had a better team than all of us, but he was still sort of just trying to figure out his direction. And for him to right the ship and add the pieces that he needed to add was definitely something to be commended. I think that he built his team the right way with the right train of thought in mind, and he enjoyed the rewards of that, winning the division, and then heading into the playoffs. I guess the anatomy of his team and falling short was just, health and run out of horses. Alvin Kamara decided, he didn't want to do what he did, and when he was playing that first round matchup. But I think that Jern should be saluted as well. Ain't nothing wrong with just taking an L to a Marvin team that had come out to play. So, Jeremy, shouts out to you, brother.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I definitely got to salute Germ. Just thinking about the competition. I mean, you got myself and what my team was projected to do, although it didn't show up, it had the injuries. Then you think about AC, I mean, what, 4-time champion, so, and then you have Marvin, a 2-time champion, and then you look at Ricky's team that ultimately won the championship. So he had to compete with all 4 of those guys, and he won the division. And quite frankly, I felt like he made all the right moves. It's like, looking at Ricky's moves, you were thinking in your head like, man, I don't see it. I don't see how he's gonna make it, which again, just makes his run even more improbable. But with Germ's team, he had his finger on the pulse of his team, the whole way through. And it's just, hey, as AC said, the injuries that just kept stacking up and, different situations kept coming up. And eventually it just kind of petered out. But nothing about his ownership and how he ran that team, can't fault him for any of that. And like I said, I think that is showed by him winning the division. The points that he scored this year, his points for. So you got to salute that. And again, much like Rav, I think he's going to be in the mix next year. Look at his team and it's like, yo, why can't this guy be back in the playoffs next year? And I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be. So salute to Jerm.
Salute.
I agree. I think I think there's a model of just consistency, right? I think I think that's a good testament to his ownership and like I think you used the right word. He has the right pulse of his team. He knows exactly what his team is, what it's not. What moves to make, when to make them, to keep himself kind of on autopilot. And when you're an autopilot, you got a good team. It's basically a race to the playoffs, and then you reassess and you do what you got to do. But listen, man, I think he will be in the playoffs. I think he has a strong core. I think that's not going to change. And Kamara is going to be interesting because whether or not Breeze retires, that may or may not affect what he decides to do with his team or not, and who knows. But he has options, So, but kudos to him too, man. Honestly,
Kamara could become an entanglement, though.
You ain't lying.
All right, listen. So, what direction y'all guys want to go? Y'all want to talk about final standings, things on the horizon? I leave it open to you guys.
Final standings.
Let's do it.
Final standings. All right. Do y'all want to do it sort of in power ranking format, or just actual go over the end of season standings?
I think we should do the end of season's rankings. I think we've done the power rankings, kind of where we thought people actually are. Let's see where people actually wound up. And maybe if that's where we think that should be whether that should have been the case,
So what are we using, the actual final standings or the regular season? Because the final standings takes into
regular season.
Okay. All right, we're starting from worst to first.
Worst to first.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go off a record. I'm not even looking at tiebreakers because my brain can't process that right now. So, all right. So Vern, the Infirmary at 10. Any words, Vern?
I suck.
Since all three of us are here, we can sort of elaborate on our own team. What's your plan moving forward?
Well, I mean, thankfully, and AC, I know you feel the same way because you have him in another league. Jonathan Taylor looks like Boy, oh boy. You know, the Birdman hand rub, man. Like Jonathan Taylor is looking good, man. He's looking real good. So, man, the plan right now is obviously Barkley. I got to ride him out for one more year and hope that this is it. I like what I was seeing from the Giants and how they were running the ball with Gallman. So I'm hoping that can translate over. Hopefully these guys will draft a wide receiver worth their salt and make that offense more than one dimensional. So so I'm going in with that. I'm going in with Taylor. And then with the third keeper, it's a toss up between Michael Thomas and maybe another move. So just have to see what happens. What Drew Brees decides to do. How do I feel about the incoming quarterback if they decide to not go with Brees and Brees retires? Rather I want to go with Taysom Hill. And then what are my other options? So that's the plan, man. And then best value available at the number one pick with the detonator. No name yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put it like this, Vern. The way I see you is after next season or after this draft, no excuses, bro. Like I don't want to hear no injuries. I don't want to hear like you should have, and then you have Jeremy's pick. So I'm not gonna get in a draft strategy like that's not for this. But you don't have any more excuses. Like you really don't. You should be ready to put out an assault unlike anything ever seen before.
Man. Dude's got to play, man. I mean, I'm looking at my team. Half these dudes are out on IR. So dude's got to play, man. And like I told Raph, injuries don't happen every single year. So it's like I'm not banking on McCaffrey not playing next year. I think he's going to be healthy. I think he's going to return to form. So I'm kind of banking on the same thing myself. It's like, had this been another season, if I had that same team, I feel like that's a team that should have been in the playoffs. So, I feel the same way. So it's no excuses. It's just, hey, it is what it is, the injury side. I don't think that's going to happen next year.
No excuses.
Yes.
Word to Stephen A. Smith. No excuses. No excuses. I don't care what it is, bro. I don't care if everybody. No excuses. Injuries, no excuses. You got the first pick. You're going to have some picks in the fifth. And whatever else in the draft. No excuses. That's it. Like, that is it. You need to you need to put a picture on your wall, like right above your computer. No excuses, bro. It's your turn. No excuses.
I appreciate that, AC. I will keep that in mind next year.
No excuse. All right. Then is Brett. So let's see. The best way I can think of Brett. let me I'll act like I'm Brett.
I'll tell you. So here's.
I'm Brett. I'll be Brett. As I'm reading my nice little book with my cup of Joe on the side, I'm Brett. So somebody asked me a question as if I'm Brett.
Can you turn to the chapter where it references D12, please, for the people?
Yes, I can. All right. Let it be known that I'm at the chapter for D12. But Raph, what does this have to do with my team for next year?
That's exactly the point. So whatever it is that you're reading, if it ain't fantasy related, put it down.
All right. What would you like to know about my team?
I think people want to know, are you rebuilding? Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? You're a former champ. What are you like you're a GM who's like this. It's like,
well, Raph, funny you should ask me. The thing about fantasy football is, does one ever really know before they actually make the decision? I don't think so. I think that when the time comes, I'll figure it out then. But I do like what I saw in Dobbins. I know you guys trashed me about that, but I do like what I saw. And Derrick Henry, he did what I knew he could do all season. Now, do I regret the Mahomes thing? Yeah, I do. But in the aftermath of that, I can at least say that I have Diggs. So I think that I have a good foundation for what I need to do next year. But I'm going to say to you guys, like in the fall, don't make any predictions about what I might do in the draft. I may listen or I may not.
You know, to quote, I'm going to ask you your favorite question. Your
Yes.
favorite question is, who do you think is going to blow up next year?
In terms of what, Raph?
Well, in terms of how you decide which players you invest in and which you don't, it's usually the players I think are going to blow up.
Well, let me answer your question with a question. What do you mean? Are you talking about people on my team or people out in the fantasy universe?
Whoever falls on my lap, whether I have them in my pocket or if they're sitting at my computer when I can select the draft button.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to study what Aaron does, and I'm probably going to make a decision based off of that. And that's all I'm going to say, Raph. I have to go because I need to read my daily paper for the night. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we'll send it back to the
Man,
stage.
I had to get that right out of me, man.
That was actually pretty. That was actually pretty good. That was a.
I try.
That was a good Baskin Dobbins 21 flavors of GM management personality in one too.
I try. Next up is me. So, any of y'all want to put me on the hot seat, ask me some questions?
So what's going to happen with Juju?
What's up, Vern? What you say, Vern?
What's going to happen with Juju?
Oh, brother.
What would you do? What would you do?
What would you do? Man, Juju is doo-doo. Boo-boo, and we moving him out as soon as I can, man. We got the U-Haul truck. That brother's out of here, man. I don't want to just look at it from like a keeper standpoint. I'm answering y'all questions, if y'all have any, but Juju is out, man. I tried to come into the season rebuilding the team, but keeping the best talent that I could keep. I've been kind of frugal with the draft pick trades. I'm considering some this off season, but that Juju and Godwin thing backfired. Now, Juju, I guess, I need to see what the Steelers are going to do with him, but I'm never going to mark a guy undraftable. It's just that he doesn't have any value to me to keep on my team. Godwin, look, man, I was so annoyed by Tampa Bay and last all season, this season, that I'm not calling Godwin, his value just in the drainer, but they're another team that look at what they do in the off season, and even then, like they're one of those like believe half of what you see and none of what you heard. I just don't have time for that. Like these guys are still draftable, but the value is just not in terms of keeping them on my team. I got to figure out the third keeper thing with my team. I may think about going to draft. I may think about going the trade route. I may pull another maneuver on my own team. I did pick up Dak for a reason. So, I just have some blanks to fill in. I got the third pick in the draft. So I'm going to be looking to restock the roster, man. I think ever since I drafted Zeke, I've been trying to build the foundation back up, and just different things have occurred along the way. I tried with Montgomery last year. I just didn't feel it was a good match. So I'm just in rebuild the foundation mode, but we all play to win. So, I'm looking to stay very competitive, but at the same time, you need the horses. Look at what Vern is bringing to the table. Look at what Brett is going to bring to the table. And then you look at what the guys at the top bring to the table. You got to have the horses, man, to run the race. So, I'm going to be looking for horses for sure.
What would AC's team would be without a diva wide receiver? Like, I feel like there's always like a wide receiver who epitomizes like, it's not like the talent ain't there. Like the talent, like every time, I look at, I don't really think about some of your wide receivers. It's like, yeah, talent, but man, these guys just attract the wrong kind of attention. And I think whether, Godwin just got lost in the shuffle with whatever Tampa Bay got going on. But the whole, Juju dancing on the logos and distractions, like it's almost like you need somebody who's like a safe personality, safe pick, safe. Like you gonna stay on the field, you ain't gonna make no off-season noise. You gonna just study and play and be reliable, be the mature keeper on the team. You know what I mean? So
yes and no. Really, fantasy is all about the time period that your team exists in, man. Sometimes you have a great Like you have Lamar. Well, I don't know if you're keeping him this year, but you just look at the feel of it. You have to, and you can make a run based off of that. And then sometimes, you've landed on some moves that you need to essentially autocorrect. And, that's kind of where my team is at now. The year I had Zeke, and again, the moves that you make foundationally, they set you up for either greatness or you're hurting. So with Zeke, I kind of wanted to draft him. Then the next year come back and add pieces to that. But I went all the way to, the playoffs and was able to win. So coming out the next year, now you have a low pick. And you're like, well, I can't get that second piece. And then, so where I'm at right now is, I've tried to rebuild that foundation. I've had a few misses. And hopefully in this draft with a higher end pick, I can come back and correct that. I do believe in Swift. Like I want to see what Detroit is going to do in the offseason. But I think that while he's not a 300 carry per season guy, I think he'll be a productive guy with the touches that they give him. I think they're going to feature him more. Not to say he doesn't need like a Kerryon Johnson or AP by his side, but it's like define the roles. And I think that he'll be all right. Then Zeke, I got to roll the dice on him again, man. You can't let go of Zeke. But Zeke, Zeke needs to go in this all season with a purpose. So I'll just say that, man. I think that, yeah, you want good players, but you land on who you land. I don't think Juju was a pain. I just think he landed in a situation in Pittsburgh where they're looking to move on from him. And so he kind of fell to the back of the line. I think you combine that with Big Ben. His arm is starting to wane, not starting, but is waning. And he can't get the ball, downfield like he used to. So Juju is just a victim of the circumstances, but I think he's still a value. Like if he went to another team with a good QB, I think he's back in the saddle. But
I think Juju was a victim. I think Juju was a victim where he wasn't necessarily the top-notch talent at that position, right? Where he was afforded that, like, I can slack off, I could be the diva, but they ain't got nobody else on the ball to, so it is what it is. Because Chase Claypool came in hard, Deontay Johnson did his thing, and those guys are all kind of like in that same tier of players. And it's like, whoever's open. Well, not talking about Ben because that's a whole nother issue. They got to move on from Ben, but just as far as like who's going to be that alpha, clear wide receiver one, like any one of those guys could be the one. So
yes and no, but you can't underestimate the value of Juju in that lineup. He was basically a decoy, but he was somebody that you had to take serious. So you can't, Claypool is Claypool and Johnson, the rest of those guys, because Juju basically took the back seat. Whether that was because Pittsburgh told him to take the back seat, whatever. But I don't think Juju, I think he takes his craft very seriously. He has fun, but the dude is a good, upstanding kid. I don't think he's a diva at all. I just think he was a victim of the circumstances in Pittsburgh. So
we're going to find out. I got a feeling he will be in a different uniform next year.
Yeah. So that's it with my team. Next up is Mel. Go ahead, Raph. Why don't you act as if you're Mel?
No. Nah, you know what? Listen. You know what? For all it's worth, I think, living in Texas, looking at Deshaun Watson, man, they're gonna get that boy killed. And I think they are wasting what would be a top 2, top 3 quarterback in this league on any other team. I think we'll see what management does. They're gonna get a new GM there. I think next season, head coaching thing will work itself out. But I think I'm a Watson believer in him being a really, really great quarterback, and a dual threat. And I think at the quarterback position, when you got that and you got some people to throw to, but that whole Johnson for Hopkins thing, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. But I think that is a franchise quarterback, no question. And I think him and Jacobs, that's going to be a solid core coming back. What he does with that third keeper, or whether it's Dan Waller or whatever. But I think it's time to move on from some of his veterans. We'll see what he does in the draft. He has a high pick. But I think Mel showed he could draft and he could put a team together. So. It's what to be. Is it going to be like a veteran heavy team, or is he going to like try to build it with some young folk?
Yeah, I think Mel. He has he and I are not that far apart. I think he has higher end talent than I do. for sure. But I don't think we're that far apart in the decision-making process. Like, he's going to have to really think about, he has a third keeper or a series of them. He just has to really think long and hard. What avenue do you want to take? You know, the old faithfuls, which to me still have a lot of juice left.
Yeah.
Does he want to look at, you know, positions that are hard to come by? Does he want to look at, you know, some of the moves that he made in the draft? He has to make a decision. But I do think it all depends on what you like. I mean, you know, it depends on what you like. But I think once he makes his decision, he'll be able to move forward. But it's also like, keep an eye on how he navigates the off season. Romel is not that prone to trades and this and that. So we'll see what he ultimately decides. But I think he's going to have to make a decision one way or the other. So we shouldn't, you know, he'll be all right one way or the other. That's how I see it.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. Romel should be fine. I think he can navigate his way, and yeah, you know, he's not a person that's necessarily a trader, but I think that he can make a move. I think there's room for him to make a move if he gets the right offer. So, but even if he doesn't, I think that he has talent. I'm looking at his team. He has talent for a third keeper that I think that he can ride in with and feel pretty comfortable. So Mel's gonna be fine, man. It's more about what is he gonna do with his draft picks and kind of set up his team. And that kind of goes back to what AC was saying, whether that's going to be stocking back up with veterans or whether he's going to bring in some new blood. So whatever that decision is going to probably dictate how his season will go next year.
True that. All right. So moving on to Plunk. I mean, well, you know, sometimes you ever heard that saying, like they talk about like quarterbacks. If you have like 5 quarterbacks, you really don't have any.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just as an example, Plunker has a lot of players, but does he have solid guys? He has Mahomes. And I think he's in a position where he has to keep Mahomes. Again, I don't want to start talking about keeper decisions for people, but I think that Plunker is still in the process of turning this team over. I think that he has some work to do. He had a good team in terms of making trades and trying to compete within the framework of last season. But moving forward, I think he has some real decisions to make. I don't know where he goes. I think he could go up or down the line either way. I don't think it would be hard to do either way. So that's how I see his team.
You know, I think, you know, looking at his team, I don't think he's that far in your quote unquote decision making process, and even you and Mel are, right? I mean, it ain't no secret, right? You got Mahomes, you got Kelsey, and then you got a possible. It's the way I look at it. Without, you know, that's not necessarily a secret. I think that's a tandem that, you know, you could feel comfortable with. Any team would feel comfortable if I think riding in to next season with. But to your point though, simply about what do you fill that roster out with? Whether you're just going to kind of go the safe, you know, the high ceiling, low floor kind of model, whatever. How do you fill that team out? But I think as far as a third keeper, I think there's moves to be made. I think on his team is where he wants to go with it. So,
Burn.
Plunk has a lot of options, and that's a better position than where he was last year when he didn't have enough options, and he's trading for Todd Gurley for a 5th round pick. So, with that being said, I think like Raph said, it's more about how Plunk wants to rebuild, because clearly he's in a rebuild. I mean, that was clear from last year. So now I think this is a team where it's like, if he makes the right decision, he's now back in the mix. If he makes the wrong decision, then perhaps he's still rebuilding next season. But I'm looking at his team. I'm not saying any names, but he has the foundation right there. He just got to look at it the right way. If he looks at it the right way, he'll be fine. There you go. You know. Yeah. You got it. You got it. I'm banking on that. So, good luck on making those right decisions, Punk.
Yeah. Next up is my man Gene. Gene shouldn't be a heavy lift. I think that he's going to, again, no secrets here, but he's going to have to give a hard look at his lineup and say, beyond Chubb and beyond D-Hop, where do you want to go with this squad? Do you want to, it's just like, like Vern is going to have to do with Barkley. At some point, do you say, all right, Barkley, you are now firmly in the hot seat. You got to do your thing, boy. Or do you say the talent is just there? So Gene has some decisions to make, but I don't think that he's in a situation where he's going to fall out of grace. I think that he has established that he has enough to stay competitive, but he's going to have to figure out what he wants to do with his life very quickly. That's how I see his team.
I look at Gene's team, and I don't think he's in a bad position at all. I mean,
No.
like I look at, he's not someone who I would look at and be like, man, there's a move in your future, a third move in your future somewhere, some way, like dependent on his success moving forward. I think he can look at his roster like in a bubble and be like, all right, I'm gonna rock with A, B, and C and be done. And come into next season feeling good about it without, trading any draft capital or whatever, if that's what he chooses to do. I don't think he's in a bad position. I think, like I said, I think he's going to be strong going into next season. Again, it's going to be about how he fills out the rest of that roster will determine how successful he wants to be next year.
Go ahead, Vern.
I don't know, fellas. I kind of see this a little bit differently. I think he has a way out, but I don't know if he's going to be willing to make the sacrifice he needs to make in order to take that way out. But he got options. But I just don't know where his head is at with certain guys. And kind of like what you said, and not to get into any names per se, but it does become a thing. At some point, you got to know, okay, when is a guy, his time is up with your team? Even looking at just other guys, other pieces on your team, looking at their situation when a guy's maybe on his way up because he's, either going to get more opportunities or be in a different situation, new QB, whatever the case might be. So to me, this is a tricky situation, man. I'll be honest with you. This is a 50-50 for me. Like Gene, like he has Chubb and he has Hopkins. So he's not going to be terrible. He's always going to be competitive. But it's that third keeper that's like, depending on what happens, it's like, I don't know. So I just hope Gene makes the right choice. I want to see him be competitive. I honestly felt like that this was Gene's year. To be honest, Rap, I kind of saw Gene kind of getting some revenge, but it just didn't play out. But I feel like if he makes the right decision, he could be right back in the mix. So.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick. When it comes to fantasy, when you are in a position to, generally speaking, to draft that kid out of college, to be that cornerstone of your team, the talent is there. You hoping, it may not be that first year, maybe not that second year. At any point, does emotion conflict with you making the right decision for your team? Because you want to, it's like you sitting at that slot machine, putting those quarters in. Do you want to just walk up and let the next person come in and hit that jackpot? But it's like, listen, how many more quarters am I going to spend waiting for this machine to turn hot?
That's subject to the owner. I mean, that's why you have one way or the other. That's why you have people who hit it big and you have people who are back in the lottery. I mean, it just depends on the owner how you see things. I mean, and there have been blatant examples all the way around, whether you have the sort of cold calculated cut and ties, which can go either way, or you have the sentimental, like these are my guys, or you have the I've been rocking with you and you let me down, but you know what? I'm going to keep rolling with you and it pays off. So that's a question, Raph, that I don't think we can adequately answer. It just depends on the owner. It depends on the situation. I remember DeMarco Murray, like I sat on him for a while and eventually it worked out, but it took a while. And when it did, I mean, it did. But up until then, it was like, dude, 150 carries for 700 yards this year. Great. Like you owe me one, DeMarco. So it really depends. I mean, I remember I had like Sean Alexander, a few guys where you're happy that they got you into the playoffs, so you had a great run with them, and then all of a sudden they just don't cut the mustard anymore. So it just really depends. Kenny Rogers, man, you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, brother.
Yeah. I would say, because you asked the question as in, okay, how do we view it? So I'm gonna just tell you my view. When I was younger or newer to fantasy football, I definitely was a much more emotional kind of guy. Like, if I believed in your talent, I'll ride it out with you. I wrote it out with quite a few guys that had shaky situations. Maybe they were splitting the backfield with somebody, but I believed in their talent. And you take a lot of L's that way. And what I learned is that you can have your beliefs in a guy, but don't let your beliefs dictate your moves. So you can have your beliefs, but you also have to deal with the realities, which is the value of a player. So if the player, if the value doesn't match your belief, then you got to let them go. And guess what? You can always get them back in the draft. If you still believe and you just want to take one more shot. And the prime example of that for me this year was Odell Beckham. I believe in his talent, but I couldn't keep him because the value just wasn't there. Like, yo, you're not a keeper. I believe in your talent, but you're not a keeper. So I had to let him go. And it's like, okay, well, fortunately it played out. I was able to get him back. And guess what? He still burnt me again. So, that it is what it is. But I would say now that I'm older, I'm much more calculated. So that's my answer. Raph, do you have an answer?
No, I mean, and I'm not, I know we're not talking about keepers, but I feel like, I'm much more pragmatic and practical in my analysis of stuff. But someone like Joe Mixon, just looking at his team, like, that's a dude who, the talent is unquestionable, bro. It's like, but it's like, how long can you ride it out with a dude before, you hit the jackpot? I think 10 different owners might move in 10 different directions when it comes to somebody like a Joe Mixon right now. And I wouldn't I wouldn't blame him if he kept him, wouldn't blame him if he sold him. I wouldn't blame him if he, picked him up again at the right value in the draft. Whatever he decides to do.
Wouldn't blame him if he hit you up like, Rav, can we do a trade? Rav, stop.
I'm just saying.
Stop. Listen, at the end of the day, man, fantasy football, really anything in life, man, as you're going from moment to moment, it's all about how you steer your own boat on the journey of your own life, or in fantasy, your fantasy life. You gotta know how to play the situations and what to look for. I mean, it could come down to a coach. It could come down to rebuilding the whole line. There's a lot of factors that determine what you're going to do. The one thing I don't think you can do if you're going to play this game is just blanket, like, you can't just make moves based off your emotions. Like, you can't just say, oh, well, because I'm a Dallas fan, I don't care for the Eagles player. Like, you can't do that. Or they're playing Dallas this week, so I ain't playing it. Like, you can't don't make like those sort of rookie sort of just, emotional decisions. Beyond that, man, this is about putting in the work. Now, that doesn't guarantee you a championship, but ultimately having success, you gotta study your team and know what the situations are and react accordingly. That's it. That's really it. Like, like Odell, okay, he's been hurt, like the knee, this and that, okay. Vern has to make a decision. I mean, not now, but you got to make a decision. If you're that guy, like, all right, how do I feel about rolling with Odell one more time? No, I mean, honestly, it's like, okay, like Juju could go to, let's see, his skill set. Okay, yeah, he go to Green Bay. I mean, it's like, at that point, it's like, well, wait a minute. So it really all depends. And that cuts both ways, because you're making a decision. You're making an educated guess. That's all we're doing in every one of these situations. You're making an educated guess, because he could go to Green Bay and A-Rod be like, so what? I got Devontae right there. Or he could be like, you know what? It's nice having you here. So you're making an educated guess, man. And however you make your guesses, that determines how far you go. It's an inexact science. The better owners, the ones that are more successful, they sort of know what to look for. That's everybody. So That's all I'm saying on that. I mean, you could keep the same guy. I could keep Juju. I'm not. I'm good. I'm going another direction. But you know, you just got to make the calls as you see them, and that varies from owner to owner. So, Raph, don't be doing no propaganda on here, man.
You know, Raph is always angling, man.
Yeah, really.
So anyway,
Let's go ahead, Vern. Go ahead.
What's the next team here? We talked about
We
Jeans.
covered it. The playoff guys.
Oh,
So I would loosely say, because we talked about them earlier, just Germ, Raph, Marv, and Ricky. I think that should be the order based on how they finish. I think it's only appropriate, and I'm gonna keep it like that.
No doubt.
They know what they got to do. Know what they got.
Yeah, pretty much repeat what you did this year.
Yeah.
And everybody
All
except you do a little bit better. That's it.
Word. So I want to dive into some announcements, but before we do, I wanted to know if there's any other substance that you all wanted to cover and recap the league.
And we covered it all.
Okay. So I guess the first thing, and I'll put all this in a formal email, but since we're on video, the payouts, I believe like me and Vern can pay Marvin directly, and then everybody else pay Ricky. So at that point, I can get Ricky's PayPal info. And that's a long time coming. When we say we're going to get the PayPal info, that means you are the champ. So I don't have his PayPal information. They'll let you know. So we're going to get Ricky's PayPal info to distribute to the league. We'll handle that. I would like to have a new era happy hour, but what do you guys think? I mean, where we cover the top, players of the year, give out some, end of the year awards if they're appropriate, have Ricky and, Marvin recap if they want, but at least, hear from Ricky how he feels as the champ, and, just a happy hour session. So what do y'all think would be a good time to do that?
Man, I think really anytime. I mean, we could either try to go for it this week. It's the first round of the playoffs, or we could wait for like the Super Bowl. Let it kind of marinate a little bit. Super Bowl is a big event. Everybody's going to be there. Everybody's going to be tuned in, and that's a good time to kind of catch up and kind of celebrate and, kind of talk football. So
I'm going to throw out.
I'm good with that too.
I'm gonna throw out if we're gonna do it in January, I'm gonna throw out the Sunday before MLK because it's a holiday. So if we run late, we gotta worry about people going to work on Monday, just from a logistical standpoint. That might be a mutually convenient date. I don't know.
Raph, you acting like people getting up, driving across town. Like, get up to work means go downstairs at this point.
Wow, listen, I'm just, but real talk, because people are available at different times, different time zones.
I know, I'm just messing.
So, but yeah, I would throw out that the MLK Sunday. If people are available, logistically, I'll throw that out there.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
We can have an impromptu happy hour / winter meetings and discuss, whatever LM issues.
But that's the thing. Like, I just want to right now. I don't want to get too bogged down into substance that would be like winter meetings. I just kind of want to have a happy hour. That's why I like Vern's idea of the Super Bowl, because it's almost like we're going to be on there and then start talking about the big game. I like that idea, and I like what you're saying, Raph. We just had an impromptu day sort of earlier. Whatever. I get it. But if we could just say 2 dates, then your date and the Super Bowl date, I think we should throw out to everybody.
Yeah.
As far as the winter,
MLK will probably be second round of playoffs, or would that be conference championships?
Well, what is that? Like that weekend, I guess what Raph is saying would be like the 23rd, 24th.
The 17th would be the
17th
before MLK.
Okay, 17th. That might be all right, because you don't want to get too far away from what happened in the season. I guess I'm good with that. The 17th for the Super Bowl day. I'm good with that.
Ricky can announce his PayPal info on the chat.
Right. Pay me at.
Right.
Yeah. If we can, I mean, we should try to give an effort to getting that man paid, just in case he wants to have like a Super Bowl party at his house. I mean, a quarantine, with his family and children, but so that they can get that bread and do what they will. They want to get the snacks and the pizzas and enjoy the game. So we should try to get him paid ASAP.
And I don't pay, right?
No, you don't. You won versus Germ, right?
No.
Yes.
So you're good. The first place, second, and third don't pay. Everybody else pays someone. So everybody else will pay Ricky. Me and Vern will pay Marvin. Winter meetings is when, we'll announce any rules, any updates, anything to consider in the off season. That's when, I want to talk about my concept. We're doing this in Germs League, but I know we started talking about this over here. A lottery system. The reasoning for me is much different. But at the end of the day, I at least want to have the discussion. It's something that I would not unilaterally just say we're doing. I think that that's worthy of a discussion, and just go from there. So I want to talk about that or any other ideas people may have. I know as LM, one rule change that I am going to announce, like right here tonight, is the playoff waiver system. The only thing I'll say about that is once the teams have been eliminated, like for example, once you're out of the playoffs, you didn't make it, your roster, I'm not going to say drops, but you can't add people. You can't add people once you're frozen out of the playoffs. You're done. For the teams that, and this was a rule that we've incorporated anyway, but for teams 1 through 4, in that first round, all of you fair game at the waiver wire. Once you've been put out, the teams in the finals, they get the dibs on the waiver wire. And then after that, that's when teams that are playing in the consolation bracket, they can pick up the free agents. So that's the only rule change that I'm automatically putting in. And I sent the email about that. There were moves being made. I'm not gonna say how many or how few, but either way, it's like, look, if you're out of playoffs, man, the people that are still forging ahead, they should have the opportunity of, full waiver wire. I can throw it out to y'all because I don't want to just say without any opinions, with a sample group here, but that's one that I'm just putting in myself.
Let me just a clarification question. So so in the semis, everyone just kind of normal waiver procedure. You're not in the playoffs. Just you don't rock
for the playoff teams only. Yes.
Playoff teams only. But then what happens after the semis? So like in this case, me and Jordan were playing for that third spot. We can only pick after the people in the championship playing. Is that what you're saying?
The people in the championship game have dibs on the waiver wire, like to put in your claims and all that.
Gotcha. Okay.
After that, I mean, and honestly, you guys are just playing for, I guess, third place, maybe the right to pay or not to pay. There could be an argument like, come on, but I'm not going to regulate, because you can still be playing for that money. So I'm not going to step into that one. But I think that people in the finals should have the first dibs on the player universe. Can
you assign the way? Can you manually adjust the waiver order? That might just be the easiest way to rectify.
No, because really only no. Because that's something that's earned throughout the year, and even into the playoffs, as people are using their claims, that's up to them to use or not to use. And I don't think that we should tamper with that at all. So no, I'm not adjusting that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm good with it. I mean, if you're not in, ain't no point in you picking up guys anyway, during those weeks. So that's the way I feel. Now, if you in the consolation bracket, but you're still, in lieu of some type of winnings, I'm good with letting the champs or the potential champs, get the first waivers and then letting the consolation guys, kind of pick up, after that. I'm good with it. I think there could be something that's done with the waivers, where you kind of reset it, at the start of the playoffs, and you kind of, based off of who won the division or whatever, you award them a certain waiver pick. Everybody else will be locked out anyway, so you have 6 guys that aren't in waivers, and then maybe you reset and do something with waivers then. But I could also see the point of leaving it alone because one of those teams could have not used their waivers to be in a certain position, for the playoffs. So just in case something happens, they would have the first pick. So I can see that argument being made too. So, but I'm good with the rule that you have it as now. No objections.
All right. So that's the only, and really, I think that's for unless something unforeseen happens, that's the only rule change that I'm just instituting myself throughout coming into the new season. Now we did discuss, and shout out to Germ because again he did that in his league. We were discussing the defenses, so there could be something that we kick the grass on or kick the rocks on with that in terms of adding some more scoring into the defenses. So I think once me, Vern, and Marv get a better hold on, exactly what we're trying to do, we're going to put that on the table. And that's about it. I mean, Raph, is there anything, and you get pretty wacky, but is there anything that you want to throw out there, sort of a preview to the winter meeting?
Preview to what?
Don't give me no wacky, man, like no wacky of the wacky, just something real.
Nah, man, I'm good. Like I said, I'm status quo. I'm good with the status quo.
All right, Vern.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Hey man, I just want to get to the draft. That's it.
All right. So again, is that about it? Keepers, the draft date, all that. We'll discuss that way down the line. The winter meetings now, I would like to have them. Sometimes it's good to just for everybody just to get away from it. So when do you guys think that we could have a return date, for the winter meetings? I do want to at least think about that tonight.
I'm gonna propose that it be before the NFL draft.
So almost spring meetings then.
But I mean, realistically, yes. Because like I said, if we're gonna be throwing out, potential rule changes, substantive rule changes, and I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything, but I'm just saying, like, I think the benefit of not knowing where prospective players are gonna be, respective to their own standings and what decisions they may make or whatever, I'm just thinking it should happen before the draft. So that's just
Okay.
my
Okay. The only thing that I can see on the forefront of scoring would be the defenses. That seem to be, something that I feel like, after talking to Vernon Marv, and again, Jeremy had done that in his league. I want to give him the props. Something that we need to spruce up over here, definitely to incorporate just some things that go on within a game. So, but beyond that, I don't see anything changing to our roster format or like wideouts and running backs and I don't see anything like that.
I would invite anybody to just shoot you an email if they have a proposal that they just want to throw out there, so that you can just consider it or throw it out or whatever. So
yeah, definitely. Because like I said, before we had these meetings, I want to put together, my thoughts on, the system that I want to discuss with everybody, and then any other items that anybody else wants to discuss, we can discuss it. Some things, I'm not gonna lie to you, I may just smack down anyway, but I am open to hearing what people have to say. Now, like I said, don't give me no three-way trading system and this and that and salary cap. Like, no, we ain't doing none of that. No. But outside of that, send me what you like. It's all good. I'll update the rosters with the draft picks. At least I'll make a Google Sheet document. I can't go back over all the trades, but I think like Germ had the trades with Vern and Ricky, I believe, and then Marv made a deal. There weren't a lot of trades, but I'm going to have to do some searching. So if anybody would like to send me a quick email of what they traded and what they got, that would be helpful, more efficient for me. So if you can do that, thank you. And with that being said,
the only other thing I was going to throw out to you, AC, was I know because of the whole COVID joint, and we were dealing with the IR rosters, how everybody felt about how that played out this year. Because I think COVID still probably going to be an issue next year, going into next season, unfortunately. And how that affects anything, I think it's just something we should talk about. And
yeah, definitely, we'll talk about it then. I mean, if the COVID is still doing what it's doing, then I had no problem keeping the rules the same, where we had the 4 spots, 2 for injuries, 2 for COVID, basically. I mean, assuming that, you could have, 2 for injury, 2 for COVID. Now, I will say there were times during the season where I had to hit up owners, and more times than not, it was like the same owners who would pick up people in the playoffs and things like that, and tell them that these people aren't injured or COVID related. Now, some guys, they just slipped their mind or they just didn't have an update. Some owners, I'm looking at one owner, Plunker, anyway, just have people in their IR spot. And I always had to catch that. I shouldn't have to be like the RoboCop. What's going on with your team. Outside of that, I'm for keeping the spots the same.
Can I ask you a question? This is just for my own edification. When it comes to the IR spots, you know how you could put a dude in IR who's injured and then not make any roster moves, but that person gets taken off the IR, and that'll prevent you from necessarily moving. Bro, you know what I'm talking about. And it's just, is there are you required to move a dude out of your IR spot just because he's activated if you're not making any roster moves?
I don't care what you do in that sense, but if you like, what I saw was okay. I'll be specific. So Vern had James Robinson, and I
Yeah.
hit him up like, Vern, let me finish the story. So I hit him up like, Vern, James Robinson, like COVID, like nah. But then when I did some research, I saw like, no, he was actually still in like a COVID sort of IR status. So that was on me. Like I'm telling him to like bump him out because you don't see any updates. Versus, I've run into other owners who they just are like IR, they're active, whatever their status is, they sort of relinquish that status and they still have them on IR. And it's like, you can't do that. Like, if philosophically, if the NFL says, we still don't know your COVID status, but you are COVID designated, I can't, whether you have the marker or not, I can't regulate that. But if you have a guy who's now active or they've been cleared and they're still in your IR spot, if you're jamming up the other spots on your roster, like, for example, if you are like, look, I'm just keeping this guy in IR status and I have two other injured players, I have another COVID guy, and you can't do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, because you could have 16 guys
You're just
in
talking
an
about
extra space.
You're just
Well,
talking
no,
about
listen, you can have 16 guys, have like an empty space on your bench, and then have a guy on IR who's now been active. I don't have a problem with that because you still have an open bench spot. I have the problem when you have a full roster and now you have like 4 active guys just chilling on your IR, but that's only because with ESPN will freeze your roster, but it's only because if they haven't been designated as COVID anymore, like you can't, you got to get them out of the space. Does that make any sense?
No, that makes perfect. And I kind of was going to my question because I know, and I'll say, listen, there's times when I'll have a dude who was legitimately injured, like McCaffrey, for example. Let's say back when he was coming back, like I think I had him in IR, and then there was one week where they said the reports where he was coming back, he has a projection, but he's still out. Then he comes back as active, but he actually didn't wind up playing. So there might have been a time when it was like he's active, but I haven't moved him out of my IR slot. I
don't have a problem with that. Like, I guess I'm trying to make it make sense. Like, I have a problem with as an LM where, okay, just because the guy's active on your IR, you don't have to, even if you have a full lineup, a full roster, you don't have to move him because again, ESPN will say, well, you can't pick up this and that because you got an active. So that'll dictate what's going on. I have a problem where if you have a COVID guy, all right, you have a full team, you have a COVID guy who's now not a COVID guy, and you're trying to manipulate that to add people to your team, whatever it is you're trying to do. It's like you gotta get you have to have you gotta get the COVID guy active again. Like you can't sit an active, healthy player just in your COVID spot because he doesn't have COVID anymore.
So you're just
and
talking
that
about,
was the philosophy.
talking about dudes who were designated COVID in a COVID spot who are no longer COVID.
And they're active.
And they're active.
Yes, you got to get them
Whereas
because it's only two. The only 2 spots are for COVID related people. Once that COVID is cleared, that's why I use the Vern example because James Robinson or whoever it was, they were still COVID. I'm looking just for what ESPN had on the website, and it was like, oh, well, they look active. But then after I talked to Vern, I did a deeper dive, and like, no, that person was still whatever was the Jaguars running back. They were still COVID, so it's like that was my boo boo. So. But in the situation where now these players aren't COVID anymore and they're just chilling in like the IR spots and you just have them there because you don't want to lose them or drop somebody from your bench, like you can't do that. Now, if it's just a regular injured player and all things considered on your roster, like you can just keep them there. You don't have to move a guy because again, ESPN will dictate what you can and can't do. It's just a COVID manipulation I don't want.
So you're
If that
basically
makes sense.
manipulate the additional roster spots using your IR slots to increase your roster sizes, basically.
Your IR COVID spots.
IR COVID spots. Okay.
So in other words,
Even if you have active players on your IR spot, but before they were designated to return, you're filling out the rest of your roster, and you just never move your now eligible dudes out of your IR spot, non-COVID. That's cool.
Because again, ESPN won't let you do that. Go ahead, Vern.
in other words, don't finesse your COVID spots. That's it. Just don't finesse. Right? If the dude got COVID, okay, put him in the spot. If the dude no longer has COVID, take him out of your spot. There's no other impending injury, like where you really don't know if he's going to play. Chances are, if he's cleared of COVID, he's now active. He's going to play. Whereas like a guy like McCaffrey, where even though he might not be out, he's considered active or questionable, he may not actually play. So there's a reason to keep him on IR because later on that week, he may go back to being out. But COVID guys, it don't work that way. So when they're deemed active, take them out. Don't finesse the system. That's it.
Well said.
Got it.
So yeah, that's it. That's it. We got the payments, we got the dates, and I believe that's it, guys. 2020, it's a wrap.
I didn't think we'd get here, but we got here.
Word, we made it to 2021, which in itself, just the fact that we actually finished the season, which I did actually had my doubts about whether we would actually finish the season, man, whew. So I'm glad we were able to get the season done. I'm proud of what we have done with this season. I felt like, man, this is just one of the seasons for the ages. So again, man, just salute to all the guys that played, in the league this year. You guys all deserve y'all flowers. I know we gave them to you throughout the season, but man, salute to all you guys for riding with us. Yeah,
and I guess the last thing, if put a little bow on it, just wanted to send, prayers and congratulations to Quinn. Quinn is now known as the new era baby. Raph, I'm not liking it to like a material, but you got the best prop of all time with Quinn. Totally knocks out any prop, anything we've done this year. You got the gold medal, bro. So praise up, congratulations.
Thank you first. Thank you.
And if you got it,
very well. By the way, I'll share a picture with your fellas. No worries. But he's doing well. So
yeah, you gotta bring him to the happy hour.
I'll bring him to the happy hour. I'll do that.
There you go.
For sure. And I guess that's it. I would like to say, me personally, I'm very, very happy for how the season went. Just getting personal here. Vern knows, Raph, you don't know, but I lost my dad in August. So it was just one of those things where like we all needed a relief or retreat from, just our daily life. And this was definitely that. Like this helped me out, and I'm glad that it helped out everybody else in the league in a lot of ways. So as LM, I couldn't be more satisfied with what occurred here. This was a year that was definitely good for the soul. It didn't feel good losing every week, but just from a personal, going on your journey, trying to bring joy to people standpoint, like this league meant a lot to me. So 2020, all done.
On to 2021, man. On to 2021. All right. Well, fellas, hey, I guess this is the end of the official season for the Fantasy League. So I don't think we'll be recording the happy hour, but look forward to getting back with you three next season, man, and looking for some new wrinkles that we're going to add on to the videos. Definitely looking forward to that.
Got some good ideas brewing too.
Likewise.
No doubt.
It's a wrap, fellas.
All right, fellas, man. Peace and love, and 2021, bro.
Stay healthy.
Congrats, Ricky.